Yeah. So for me, this condition is really problematic because it's constantly reminding me of what I'm not, or it's constantly presenting such a vivid image, right, in my mind of what I could be or what I could do. And for some reason, no matter what I do in real life, because, real life and daydreams are different, right? But no matter what I do in real life, it's frustrating because seemingly I can never get to that goal that I saw so vividly in my mind. Um, my maladaptive daydreaming is telling me it's like it's holding up this photograph that was taken in the future, and it's like this is you. If you do this, then this is you. And then I try to do that in real life, and I follow every single step that I so carefully put out for myself. But then at the end of the day, I just don't reach that goal. And it's happened so many times. It's happened with me. It was my dream job to be a doctor, and a lot of things happened in my life that just contributed to me not being able to actually pursue that career. And instead, I wanted to go into digital art and things like that. Digital art, and then I studied emergency medicine as well, so I'm a medic. And with art, it just became so clear to me that I still have such a long way to go if I really want to impress, the the art world. And that set me back very, very far. Or yeah, I can say it set me back a few years because it just broke me down completely. And as a medic as well, I wanted to pursue medicine because I absolutely love medicine. It's what I would love to be a part of or work in. And then the only training institute that actually accepted me without any science or whatever in from my high school, they're one of the toughest training institutes in the world. I can confidently say that they are one of the toughest training institutes. They do close protection and they do emergency medicine, and it's tough. Not everyone can actually pass. Um, so they do have a failure rate. And ironically enough, I was one of the people who passed and I graduated. And it was so difficult. I feel like I had to put in a lot of extra work because, maladaptive daydreaming makes me see life in a very blurred fashion. I don't feel like I'm really here. I feel like, I mean, I'm here physically, right? But my my conscious or the way that I view life is very blurred. Or my mind is it's like my mind is looking in from the outside. And it's such a weird way to explain it, but that's really what I feel like. And I'm sorry, I realize that I'm digressing as well. It's just part of this thing, but emergency medicine was so difficult for me to do because everything that was said in class just went over my head. And during the practice for the exams and things, my instructor would like hone in on me and he'd be like, so why is this happening and what will you do to stop it? And I wouldn't be able to answer him because I I know the answer, but I also don't. And it was so frustrating for me. It feels like I'm very slow in life. It feels like I am like my skills are so underdeveloped and I myself am just not getting anywhere. I think that that's a really good way to explain it. So that's what happened with practically everything that I tried to pursue. And the same is with tattoos right now. I have my own tattoo studio and it's just not going anywhere because, not just because of COVID, but I feel like my skills just aren't good at all. And I realized that that's a big problem because it's sort of imposter syndrome, but it's not just imposter syndrome, it's maladaptive daydreaming as well because it The way I explain it to people, or the way that I explained it initially to some people on my YouTube and on Tumblr, is maladaptive daydreaming it promises you a lot of things, and then it tells you if you do this, then this is for sure what will happen. And then you do those things, and it doesn't work out that way because real life is not the same as the daydream world. And you can be the most logical person in the world, but MD will tell you that this makes sense logically. And when you do it, it's just not the same. I can do so many things, right? I'm a multimedia artist or a multimedia designer, so I can do a whole bunch of things. But I feel like my maladaptive daydreaming does this thing where it shows me in my mind very vividly the project the end goal that I want to meet, right? But then when I get to a certain point in my art, I feel okay, this is done, and then I complete the artwork without it actually being done, or I complete the project without it actually being done. And the reason why I do this, and it's so difficult to solve this problem, but I am trying. It's not like I'm just giving up. But the thing that happens is that my mind is my mind is like a broken record when it comes to my art or the things that I create. Every time when I create something, the same sentence is like a broken record in my mind playing over and over and over again, and that is not good enough. It's literally the words not good enough. And I realized that this is also just a way of thinking and me being way too hard on myself. But the thing is that it gets frustrating when you try to create something and you can spend hours and hours and hours on this thing and it just never goes the way that you want it to. So eventually you're kind of forced to just, scrap it. You have to in art, it's important to know when to let go, right? But it's so difficult for me because dealing with maladaptive daydreaming and having this thing coupled with imposter syndrome means that no matter what I do or no matter how good my art or my projects are, I personally feel that they could be better. And it's not like I'm not comparing my own work to other people necessarily. I'm comparing my own work to my mind, to what maladaptive daydreaming wants me to compare it to, and that's where the problem sets in. So right now, I'm currently trying to build my portfolio. I already did the art part of my portfolio. So next is animation, and then music, and then video editing and things like that. And I really want to start sending my portfolio to animation or game development studios. But even though I know that my portfolio looks decent and it looks good, I just feel like it's not good enough. I constantly feel that in order to get the attention of some really important people in the industry, I have to work so much harder. And it's really difficult because my maladaptive daydreaming will not let me work. It will let me work for a few minutes and then I have to stand up and I have to walk around. I have to, get some exercise in and then I sit down and I work again. So yesterday I made a short little stupid animation. It was probably like 2 seconds in length, and that took me 6 hours just to do a very rough, like it's like the planning animation almost. So it's difficult because people in the industry, they don't want to hire people with mental health conditions. They don't want to sit with that stuff. But I mean, for me, it's like I'm not making up excuses. I'm genuinely putting in the work, and that's why I work from let's say 9 to 11 p.m., from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. And well, because I feel like I'm missing out. My mind is wasting so much time. And I get these projects done, right? It's not like I'm not meeting my own deadlines, but my my mind is like it's showing me what I should do, and then when I do it, it's beating me down and saying, well, this isn't good enough. And I know this sounds so weird to talk about my mind and myself like as two separate things, but maladaptive daydreaming really is like a separate person in my head, telling me all these things, making all these promises, and then just sort of snatching it away, you know? Yeah, so when I was working on the ambulance, the same happened. So in medicine, there's a hierarchy. You have, I don't know who's way above, but basically it's the medics or the first responders, then it's the medics, then it's the paramedics. There's a difference between paramedics and regular medics. Then above paramedics, it's, let's say, medical doctors or nurses or whatever. So there's this hierarchy in medicine. And me as a medic, I have to listen to paramedics, and paramedics have to listen to doctors and so forth. So when I was working on the ambulance, I'd have to have my paramedics repeat things to me before I actually had, like, before I could actually get myself to move and get myself to do them. And it wasn't out of nervousness that I would forget what to ask the patient or forget what to do. It was just that my MD was acting up like crazy. It just came in like a truck full of bricks without brakes, the brakes failing, because I'd see the patient in front of me and my MD would immediately go into overdrive trying to figure out what's wrong, trying to figure out what I should do. But it was more thinking and less doing, sort of in a way. So I'd go into this blur again where everything around me is just this blur, and my paramedics got frustrated with me because they would have to repeat things to me. And in emergency medicine, you cannot really allow that to happen. And unfortunately, there's a very big stigma against people dealing with mental health issues, which is so ironic because I can almost certainly say that most medics, or, well, I don't know about most doctors, but most medics have some form of issue, whether it's anxiety or depression or loneliness or whatever. Everyone has something, but apparently it's still such a taboo to be on the ambulance and have to deal with things. And I understand that certain mental health conditions, is a problem, or it can be a problem because it could be triggered by what you have to deal with. But for me, having maladaptive daydreaming, I just need someone to look at me and tell me straight, this is what you need to do, not be on their own and sort of mumble what I need to do. Because if someone force their words into my face and make sure that I hurt them, that is when I will be able to do what I should do, right? So, but unfortunately, on the ambulance, you don't have time for that. You have to focus on the patient. The patient is the most important, right? So, for me, that's what made it so difficult working on the ambulance. It's just, it, I don't know. I just wouldn't be present. I'd be there, but uh, yeah. Sorry. It's very difficult for me to talk about because I feel like I have so much pressure uh on myself. Sorry. I have so much pressure put on myself by myself just to prove myself to myself. Does that make sense? I don't know. I constantly feel like I have to prove myself to maladaptive daydreaming, which I mentioned earlier is almost like a separate person. It's like this person who just isn't happy with anything. And it's like, this is what you should do, okay? And if you can't do it, then you're a failure. And that is everything that I've done in my life. I've never felt like I deserve any recognition for what I should, for what I do or what I create. And it makes everything difficult, especially when it comes to, having a dream of working in medicine because you're surrounded with these people who are so incredible, who are so amazing at their job, and then there's just you who is living in this blurred reality, and it's almost like you're a burden, right? You're a burden in everything that you're doing. So, yeah. Um, sorry. Yeah, no, yeah, sorry. I apologize a lot. I digress a lot, but I feel like maladaptive daydreaming most definitely ruined my life. And I'm constantly fighting against it just to just to be happy, just to be okay with myself. And society isn't really helping with that either because, my business partner, we have this art thing going, but it's not really getting anywhere, and I feel like that's also on me. But he would send me like freelance jobs, and I'd constantly be in the middle of a project, like for my portfolio or for my YouTube or for Twitch or whatever, and then he'd send me these things, and I turn it down because I don't have time for it. And you know, him and the other people in my life would really just be really hard on me. They'd be like, "Yeah, we don't understand why you just don't take these projects. Like it's money. You can get income." But the thing is, I can't do them. I really cannot do these projects because I'm so hyper fixated on my own personal goal where I should, I need to get my portfolio fixed so that I can actually send it to studios. And now I have these other stupid projects that I just don't care about. I don't give a damn about these things, so I'm not going to put in any effort. I'm not going to put in any time. So that's why I don't do them. It's because if I don't care about something, then I'm not going to be able to focus on it. I'm not going to be able to do it. And I'm not making excuses either. I feel like whenever I talk honestly about this, like I am right now, people are just like, oh, but Levi, you're just making excuses. It's not that you don't want to do these or that you cannot do it. It's just that you're blaming your MD because it's easy, and in reality, you're really just lazy. I can promise you I'm not lazy. I'm anything but lazy. The thing is that it's difficult to focus on something when you really have zero drive for it. And all I've ever heard in my life is, well, nobody does what they really want to do. Everyone has to do mundane tasks and things that they don't want to do. And it's like, yeah, but you're not listening to me. You keep comparing me to everyone else, but I'm not everyone else. I deal with things that nobody else deals with. And I mean, my business partner deals with a lot of mental issues as well. And they believe that I am perfectly fine because I always present myself as being fine and being happy and whatnot. But I have so many problems that I'm dealing with that I'm not talking to anyone about, not even the people who I trust the most in my life. I keep these secrets with me because I just have this history of being punished for being open about it. Like, as soon as I would talk about it, people would be like, oh, but Levi, everyone feels like this. Or, they just compare me to other people when it's like, you're not listening to me. You're not even trying to listen or to understand. So, yeah. But anyway, I digress. I'm sorry. Yeah, the point is just that it's really difficult to deal with maladaptive daydreaming. It's not like I said before, it definitely ruined my life. I feel like my life would be so much easier if I didn't have this thing that I had to drag around with me for years. It's so difficult. I come off as such a brat, you know. I'm such a a one at all or whatnot. I mean, like my own family, the people in my own family have told me, you know, you get everything that you want, and I hate that because I really don't. I barely get anything that I want. Um, I get to the point where like I enter the process of getting what I want, but I never actually get what I want. If that makes sense, I don't know, but yeah, it's just difficult, you know. And also, in my past, I've had people, you know, people who are really important to me. Um, I would show them my work and they just completely dismiss it, or they'd say, "What is this trash?" And that really had an effect on me. I remember very clearly how someone said, "Nobody cares what you want to be someday. Nobody cares what you want to do." And those words stuck with me because now I'm like, you know, unless I really make my mark or I really impress important people, really nobody cares. So maladaptive daydreaming is that broken record that records words and attitudes and plays it back to you your entire life on repeat. And no matter how hard you try to stop it, your motivation, your burst of energetic motivation only lasts for so long. So that's what I wanted to say on that. Um, yeah, I hate having this thing. Yeah. Cool. So fictional characters, that's a much lighter note. I'm very glad that we can get to a different stage of the conversation. But this is also difficult for me because uh fictional characters you know, sorry about the sniffing. God. I have paras or characters in my mind, and I have a paracosm, or like a paracosm is basically like a fictional world that's very detailed and developed, that a person makes in their mind. It's like, yeah. Um, I have a paracosm and I have a parame, which a parame is like the idealized version of a maladaptive daydreamer's, like a a daydreamer's idealized version. Does that make sense? I don't know. But yeah, so I have all of these things, but not, I mean, not everyone does. Not all maladaptive daydreamers do, but I do. And as a result of life being quite harsh to me, uh, I was very lonely growing up, and I still am. I didn't have a lot of friends, and I still don't have a lot of friends. And you know, the people who I call my friends, they're not bad people. Well, some of them really are. Uh, they they make me feel really bad. And people are like, "Oh, why don't you just make new friends?" Well, I have insane social anxiety, and I'm so scared of just being left alone again because that's what's constantly happening. Um, and I realize I digress again, but I, I'm getting to a point. Fictional characters fill those roles. They fill the roles of having really good friends. And I do have good friends, by the way. I have really good American friends. I have good friends in South Africa. But I also have people in my life who would revel in seeing me fail and who would laugh in my face about me failing. Sometimes I wonder why I even call these people my friends, but who knows? So I have these fictional characters, and like I said, they fill this role for me. They make me feel less lonely, which in itself is so problematic because in real life I am still lonely. It doesn't solve the problem, it just temporarily uh, puts a veil over the problem, you know. So to me, fictional characters are extremely important. Um, I the problem with fictional characters is that I hyperfixate on them and I sort of obsess over them. And I think I spoke about this earlier as well. Is that's all I talk about. So like I said, nobody wants to hear you ramble on about the same things over and over and over again, right? But these fictional characters are so important to me. They're like real people because in my mind they are kind to me. They care about me and they genuinely they're genuinely there for me. And it sounds so stupid and so cringy to say it, but that's what my life is like. Uh, my mind is just my mind is this hellhole of it's like this abusive counterpart that I have because it offers me such happiness while at the same time destroying me. And but yeah, anyway, to get back to these characters, I usually develop a very big love and appreciation for medical characters or scientists, so doctors or scientists. And yeah, I just people sort of hate that. People in my life are like, That's so weird. What is wrong with you?" But I guess it's because, doctors, they represent these caretakers where when I spoke to my therapist about this, she said, well, when you go to visit a doctor, their attention is fully on you. And that really made me realize that, well, maybe that's the thing. Like, for once, someone's actually listening. I come to someone with my problems and they actually try to help. Um, they actually listen, even though there's a very clear boundary between professional and patient, right? Obviously. But I have such a big appreciation for these characters because that's their whole point. That's their whole motivation is to help people. Um, and it's tough because sometimes, you don't know a lot about the characters, so you have to sort of make up your own information about them or your own sort of headcanon. A headcanon is basically like something that not the original creators of a series or a game or an animation or something or movie put. It's not official information about a character. It's something that's fan made. Fans made it up. Um, so yeah, and then but that's not a problem really. It's there's no problem making up things. The thing is just that it's difficult because you have to rely on your mind to keep you happy. It's like a drug. You just cannot get enough of it. And so you kind of rely on other people making fan art, making fan-made content, uh, the official the official creators of the characters releasing things pertaining to those characters and all that type of stuff. Um, and that doesn't really happen often. In my previous hyperfixation, the creator just disappeared. She just I don't even know if she's ever gonna return or if she's ever gonna release her game. But for 5 years. Um, for 5 years, I didn't know a single thing about this character that I absolutely loved so much, but he meant the world to me. And I'm not trying to make this out as like, oh, woe is me, it's so terrible. I'm just saying that, you're relying on your maladaptive daydreaming, and you're relying on your mind to sort of make up content for these characters. Um, and it helps, but then you create content because you need to physically see or physically, experience the content, but people around you just have such a negative attitude towards it. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because I want to get to my current hyperfixation, which is a game called Rhythm Doctor. And I'm just going to be honest here. The Rhythm Doctor community is something that it's very bizarre. Um, I this community does this thing where it actively engages in and accepts fan-made content, whether that is fan-made custom levels or whether it's original characters or self-inserting or any type of other talents, whatever you want to do. This community is so accepting of all of that. And that is so bizarre to me because I'm so used to seeing communities punish fan work and punish fan interaction. Like, this community is weird, but weird in a good way because it's accepting of weirdness. I mean, it accepts custom levels made completely out of memes. It's it's so refreshing and so nice to see that. But not just that. Like I said, they're just unlike any other community that I've been a part of. I constantly feel like I need to apologize for doing these really stupid self inserts and things like that. And people are always just like, don't be sorry. Just like, if this thing makes you happy, then who cares? Cringe culture is dead and stuff like that. And it's just like, where were you people? Why did I only find out about this thing now? But also, I guess it's for the best. Um, but it's very weird for me to see the positivity in fan made content from the community and even from the devs themselves. The devs are like, they're so engaged with their community. It's bizarre to me. It's like they don't see themselves as above anyone else like other studios might, or at least the studios that I've been the communities that I've been a part of. They're like, it's so weird. It's so strange. And I was streaming quite a few times, like just art streams and whatever, and I'd have mods from the Discord coming over and just chilling and being really, being awesome and whatnot. And I mean, it's absolutely terrifying, but it's the way the world should be, you know? It's interesting to me that this is it's like a hive mind. There's like this inside joke about the hive mind. The Rhythm Doctor Lounge, which is the Discord name, hive mind, where everyone is equally weird, everyone's equally crazy, but we all have these standards of just being decent people, which it sounds like I'm putting everyone on a pedestal, and I'm really not. For me, it's just, after going through 25 years of dealing with a lot of trash and a lot of trashy people, suddenly it's like the complete opposite. It's like, yeah, anyway, my point is just that I finally found people who I feel comfortable talking to. They're always so inclusive. And Sorry, I'm I have a lot to say, but the thing is that, I get really scared of actually talking to people. Um, but they're so understanding and they just go on with whatever. It's I don't know, it's just weird. But anyway, my original point is that um in this game, the main character, I mean, it's called Rhythm Doctor, so it's about doctors, which is already piqued my interest. I was like, hmm. And yeah, now I'm obsessed. So great. But the main characters are well, the two main characters are doctors, and they have these bizarre patients, just these interesting patients, and I love the humor. I just love the overall feel of it, but the characters mean a lot to me as well. Um, because there are okay, there no, there's more than two doctors. I'm sure of that. I know that, but the the two main ones, they both have their own struggles, their own problems, but they're still like in these really good positions, they're doctors. Like not anyone can do that. And that gives me hope as a maladaptive daydreamer, just showing me that things things won't always hold me back. It just takes time. But my current hyperfixation is just this one guy. I'm sorry. uh he's a very nervous character. Um and it seems like he's very, he's he's not really doing what he should be doing, and I don't want to make him sound bad because he's really a good person or a good character, but he has a lot of flaws. I mean, I guess that's good, but him being so overly nervous and fidgety and panicky and whatnot while being a doctor, that's something that it means a lot to me. It just shows me that, these things shouldn't hold you back. No. So, uh, there's this thing in fandoms, right? In communities where people self-insert, and self-inserts are always romantic in a sense. So, you'd have people having their sonas, their personas, or their original characters sort of being in a relationship with the official characters. And for me, it's nothing really romantic. If it is romantic, it's very, very, very mild, like borderline not. Um, but for me, in my in my daydreams, I can almost say, or rather, when these characters are comfort characters to me, they're more like platonic, in a way where you can sort of just it's like a platonic relationship, yeah. So there's no romance or sexual stuff going on. Um, for me, I myself, I'm asexual. So for me, it's like there's no need for that to be a thing. Other fans might have their own ideas or whatnot, or other fans might ship the characters with themselves or what. Everyone has their own feelings and their own things, and that's perfectly fine. No, I don't mind shipping at all. I don't mind it at all. I know that there are people who, with Overwatch, there were a lot of people who had serious comfort characters and they couldn't deal with any ships. So they couldn't deal with characters being shipped with each other, which is fine as well. But I think, you need to also be mindful that we are all fans of the same thing. So people are going to have their own ideas as long as it's not morally wrong for characters to be together or whatnot, then just go on your way and just ignore the things that you don't like. So for me, it doesn't matter at all. In fact, I am supportive of a lot of ships that I've seen so far. But for me personally, when it comes to maladaptive daydreaming, at least, this character is just someone who I can relate to on a lot of things. Just from what I've seen so far, even though I don't know a lot about him, but having these comfort characters just it makes a really big difference. And it's not that they're just comfort characters. When it comes to maladaptive daydreaming, they're a lot more. Like I said, they have this emotional bond. So character death is something that I spoke about in a video before as well. For me, I find character death very difficult to deal with. Um, people are always like, "LOL, this character's gonna die," and it's a joke. But for me, I don't want to see them die. Uh, if I know they're dead, then it's a shock, and it takes me like a week to get over it because I don't have a choice. If it's official that they're dead, then they're dead. What are you gonna do? So I tend to okay, I accept it. They're dead. There's nothing I can do about it. But I mean, in my mind, they're still gonna be alive, right? They're gonna be dead in their official worlds, but in my mind, they're gonna be alive. But I cannot cope with seeing them dying. And a good example was from the game Mass Effect. Morden was my favorite character, and I mean, he wasn't like a very important character to me. He didn't really come into my daydreams or whatnot. So yeah, but he was still my favorite character, and I didn't want to see him die. So I chose the option where, well, spoilers, I'm sorry, but I chose the option where you choose him over like a race of Krogans or a race of aliens or whatever, because I don't care about them. They are aggressive and mean. But anyway, sorry. Yeah, so I chose the option where I saved him and I was fine with that. But a lot of my friends at the time didn't understand what effect that would have on me to actually see it, so they showed me the clip of him actually dying, and it was really tough on me. I think it took me about 2 weeks to get over it. And I mean, that was like a character who wasn't seen as a comfort character, right? That was just my favorite character. So now it's like I know that my previous hyper fixation of a character who is like a scientist, or he's actually a doctor, but he can't do his doctor things where he is, so he's like a scientist now. In the game, which is unreleased, and I don't even know if it's ever going to be released, because I'm not talking to the person who works on it anymore. But in the game, apparently, if you play the game wrong, he dies. And I'm so glad that this person warned me about that, because if the game ever releases and I somehow screw up and I know that this character is going to die, then I just pull the plug on my PC. I I don't think I'd be able to cope with seeing that. Um, yeah. So luckily I know that in this current hyperfixation of mine with Rhythm Doctor, at least my hyperfixation right now, or my comfort character, is one of the main characters. And if he dies, there will probably be an uprising because he is the one person who does not deserve to die. But that doesn't mean that he's not going to go through hell. He probably is going to go through hell, but we'll see. But my point is just that it is difficult. And to get back to my original point is I made a video about this, and I told people, because a lot of other people also have the same issue where they just cannot cope with character death, or their characters just getting hurt for that matter. um and I told them, just ignore canon. It's difficult, but you have to, for your own sake, make up your own make up your own canon, I can almost say. Canon is like official, by the way. So yeah, make up your own official thoughts, let them live in your mind. So yeah. Not really. I've seen people in real life who represent some of the characters, and I'd be like, yo, that's pretty cool. You look like one of my comfort characters, but I'd have like an interest in them for a few minutes, and then I'd be like, this is a real person. I do have um that sense of understanding that you cannot enforce fiction on reality. So it would be unfair to people in real life if you would be like, oh, you look like this character. I'm obsessed with you now. You have to leave people to live their lives. So yeah, I'd find it interesting. I'd be like, oh, cool, you look like this character, but that's about it. I have zero, interest in contacting people or finding out more about what they do, who they are, and anything like that. So yeah, I'd rather stick with the fictional characters, as weird as that sounds. MD, it adds to depression. Definitely. And I think this is going to be a very heavy topic, but I think it's necessary to talk about. But yeah, the fictional characters cope with, they help deal with loneliness, but and maybe depression and anxiety as well. You have these characters cheering you up, telling you it's okay, just breathe, take some time off, it's okay. And for me, having this character, this comfort character who is so nervous himself, and he's like, it's okay, just take it easy. That's really something, that really means a lot. So I have phases where I genuinely do good, but then something will trigger my depression and my self doubt. And I will, over the course of a few days, I will feel myself slipping into a very, very dark place. Like I've hit rock bottom so many times now, and it's like you're on a slippery slope. You know what's going to happen, you know what's coming, but you cannot stop it. And that's the problem with maladaptive daydreaming, is that it's so difficult to stop. It's so difficult to change your mindset and to change your thought process to not have that happen. Um, because like I said, my maladaptive daydreaming is like a broken record. It keeps playing the same words over and over and over and the same thoughts. And that pushes my brain into this absolute hell. So yeah, that's just how I feel about it. But maladaptive daydreaming definitely adds to those thoughts because it keeps playing the same thoughts and the same sentences and the same words over and over and over again. And eventually your brain is like, listen, dude, I get it, and then it falls into the same trap, into the same hole. So yeah, I really do separate my mind from my brain, which sounds so weird, but maladaptive daydreaming is, yeah, it's such a bad thing. So yeah.